This is Chapter 11. Here we're going to talk about how to hack into web servers. In this chapter we're going to talk about what a web server is, talk about some of the more popular ones, and then we'll look at some of the security issues that were related to Apache and IIS, and we'll look at some of the attacks that we could have used to test our web servers, look at some of the tools used, and then talk about the countermeasures. So a web server, of course, is just a platform and a service where I would use my Explorer to do an HTTP request, a GET request, to transfer information from your web server to my client so that I can look at that information. Throughout that process, we may or may not have to authenticate. The browser would make the request for me. The web server would take that request. If there was authentication, make sure I had the permission to get that file and send it to me. What we want to look at, though, is can I get more information off of your web server than you had intended for me to be able to have access to? And can I use that web server as a means to take over your server and then do some other types of attacks? Some of the more popular ones obviously were the IIS web server from Microsoft, the Apache web server, Sun One. The types of security threats would have dealt with bugs, misconfigurations. There are some browser and client-side risks to surfing the internet. And then we might look at some of those denial of service attacks as well. So now Apache had a vulnerability, and you can see a lot of the white papers on our site, www.mile2.com, that talk about long URL strings being passed into Apache and causing us to be able to basically enumerate the file structure of objects that are on that website. IIS, as a development platform, had a lot of great tools that Microsoft gave developers to be able to create some magnificent pages, to make it quick to make those pages, but unfortunately with everything that we can include to make life easier, those things can be exploited, and many have. So we'll talk about some of those vulnerabilities that we had with IIS. Now, some of the components, of course, are these collections of DLLs that gave us this ability to do great server-side scripting, content indexing, web-based printing. The architecture, though, with all of these great components, again, is that with every component we add in there, there is a chance that it could be exploited or have something that it's vulnerable to, say even a buffer overflow. One of those, the ISAPI, the IS API DLL buffer overflow, was a popular way of attacking those IIS servers. That's how Code Red and Nimda worms were able to attack a lot of our servers back in 2001. Microsoft included the Internet Printing Protocol, a great utility to be able to do web-based control of your printers. But again, it is another part of an attack. It was another service, another great idea, but all it took was time to be able to find some of those vulnerabilities. So again, with all of these services come the chance that there could be exploits.